SCR 4 and opening a public hearing on SCR 6. Mr. Brennan, can you give us an overview of that? You look like you need a little work here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was champing at the bit. Thank you. I will give a quick one and then turn it over to the sponsors. Senate Concurrent Resolution 6 memorializes former State Representative Ralph Davis Brown, 1944 to 2022.
So we have two panels. We have two that will be testifying by remote, and we have three here. So let me call forward first Senator Solomon, please. And I believe that Representative
McLean,
her representative is here. Representative McLean, her representative is here.
Thank you.
So, Senator, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Janine Salmon. I am the state senator for Senate District 15, which includes areas of Forest Grove, Cornelius, Hillsborough, and the unincorporated area of Washington County. I am honored for this opportunity to bring forward SCR 6. It's a Senate concurrent resolution in honor of the life and legacy of Ralph Brown. I'm going to speak briefly to you this morning because there are amazing people in the room and that are here and testifying remotely, including Ralph's daughter. That they far deserve the opportunity to speak about Ralph Brown and his beautiful life of service. Ralph Brown's life had a wonderful, positive ripple effect. Everyone that he came in contact with, he gave his time, his attention, his authenticity, and community focus. I remember in 2011, when I reached out to all the Forest Grove School Board members in opposition of closing of the Gales Creek Elementary School. It was personally emotional for me, and Ralph was the only board member that responded to me and reached out, and he reached out to others. My most simplest memory of Ralph's lone action speaks volumes of who he was. He took whatever role he was in, and he gave it his all. In service to the building, in service to building community and service to the people. And Ralph showed up. Ralph Brown was a teacher and a community leader of great distinction, and he was renowned for his love of family, friends, and lifelong passion for his students and his decades of dedicated public service. In May of 2021, when Ralph left his home and went missing, the community turned up for him. They searched. They consoled those that were filled with worry. They held out hope, and then ultimately, they grieved Ralph's tragic loss. Ralph Brown's disappearance was felt by the whole community and amassed broad support in his search effort. Dozens of volunteers gathered and searched hundreds of miles across Oregon. Some of these individuals knew Ralph personally, and some did not. And even through this tragic loss, Ralph continued to do service to the community. And there came hope for a future where a system would have improvements put in place to better serve vulnerable Oregonians that go missing when driving a vehicle. Due to Ralph's tragic disappearance and death, Oregon's Silver Alert System and Missing and Endangered Person System, MIPA, has now been updated to include a process which has coordinated agencies' response when an endangered person goes missing. Ralph Brown continues to create a legacy of positive change. This Senate concurrent resolution celebrates the life and accomplishments of Ralph Davis Brown, recognizes and honors his contributions to the people of Oregon. Colleagues, I thank you for your time, and I urge the support of this resolution. And can I please ask that after Representative McLean's testimony is read, that Ralph Brown's daughter, Lori Saunders, may go next remotely?
Yeah, she's not on. She's online. So.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I think we're going to Carol next. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify today on this important resolution. For the record, my name is Carolyn Lee, and I'm reading the testimony of Representative Susan McLean. Representative McLean wanted to be here this morning, but she's chairing another committee. She honors the legacy of Ralph Brown and sends her regrets and asks that I read this testimony. Ralph and I crossed paths many years ago in many ways. We were both educators, and when I was a Metro councilor, Ralph was mayor of Cornelius, and I was proud to work with him on important issues for our community. I also got the chance to know Ralph and his lovely wife, Carol, through many community events and activities, and I always loved having the opportunity to visit with them. Ralph was quite simply a wonderful man. He was known for the annual New Year's Day run, which he founded, and as well as many other races that he helped coordinate, and many activities for children, and was essentially just a constant presence at every community event. Ralph was a dedicated teacher, a coach, a principal. He cared deeply about the communities of not just Cornelius, but Forest Grove and Hillsborough. And he was always focused on helping others, whether his students or community members, and I admired that dedication immensely. As a city councilor, school board member, mayor, and a state representative for one term, he showed his compassion and commitment to the people of Western Washington County through his countless hours of hard work. I am proud that I had the privilege of calling Ralph my friend. My heart is with Carol and Ralph's family as our community mourns the loss of someone who has left a profound and lasting impact. Thank you, and we encourage your support.
Thank you. Real quick, questions from the committee members? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I think that Ms. is it Sanders?
Saunders, yes.
Ms. Saunders, if you will please state your name for the record and begin your testimony.
Yes, thank you, Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, and members of the committee. For the record, I am Lori Saunders, daughter of Ralph and Carol Brown, and I come to you from West Virginia. I just would like to kind of talk to you a little bit about what my dad's focus was. And I would just like to talk to you about the pride that my dad had in family, community, and the state. First, family. As far as legacy goes, my dad was always excited to hear from students. Wherever we went, we would hear Mr. Brown from down the street or down the hall. He was well loved by all of his students. Until one day, there was a call for Mr. Brown down the street, and it was for my brother, Daryl, who is now an educator. So his legacy lives on through my brother and his focus on education as well. He also loved representing Cornelius, Forest Grove, Washington County, and the state of Oregon. In fact, you could hear my dad saying quite a bit whenever he traveled out of the state. We're Ralph and Carol Brown from Oregon. And we gave my dad a hard time about that for a lot of years, but that was his love. He loved to represent. He loved to represent Oregon. Excuse me. Washington County, sorry. And most of all, he had pride and he loved representing our family. So I thank all of you for your support for these last couple of years. Have been a tough, as you may know, for the family. But I appreciate all of the sentiment that has been spoken today already and what is to come. Thank you for
Ms. Saunders, I hope that you can still hear us. My condolences on your loss. Your dad sounds like, while I never had the privilege of meeting him, his legacy is certainly well worth recognizing. And thank you for sharing your father with the people of Oregon. And again, I offer my sincerest condolences on your loss. So
Thank you.
with that, we're going to stick with our remote testimony. And the next one that we have up for remote testimony is Mayor Jeffrey Dalen, City of Cornelius. Mayor, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Please put your name on the record and begin your testimony, sir.
Thank you, Chair Manning and committee members. My name is Jeffrey Delane, and I'm the current mayor of Cornelius, Oregon. I want to thank you for the opportunity to celebrate the life of Ralph Brown one more time. Most of the statements I have today are from a celebration of life the community held for Ralph last summer. Hundreds, estimates are in the 500 range of people showed up in Harleman Park in beautiful downtown Cornelius for the hour before a summer concert. I've had the honor to work beside Ralph for 20 plus years. My wife and I bought our first home in Cornelius in February of '96. Soon after, my wife became involved in the library and I in the politics of our fair city. I was quickly introduced to Ralph at a library fundraiser. Back then, we were working on a huge community center, library, and sports complex plan. Ralph was deeply involved in the plan and the promotion. He shared how he could see a Cornelius Kids program, a program of baseball that he was very involved in, being run out of the sports center. The twinkle in his eye and his excitement was contagious. Unfortunately, the mega project levy was turned down by the voters, but we moved forward with a grassroots effort focused on the library. That beautiful library stands as a reminder of the determination of community members like Ralph, and still today hosts many meetings of the Cornelius Boosters that Ralph and Carol put so much time and love into. This would not be appropriate unless I had a few Ralph-based jokes. The watermelon seed spitting contest is a key part of the library's summer reading kickoff. Ralph won it several times in the adult category by a long shot, pun intended. Ralph had a dream also of being able to walk from end to end in our town, of end to end on sidewalks. I'm proud to have continued to carry forward that dream forward for the DARE and Baseline projects, and that many great strides in moving that dream forward. Ralph would have enjoyed that pun too. Ralph was a very active member of the Cornelius Boosters Club. He was chair or co-chair for many years. Flag postings for holidays, plant sales, Santa at the library, summer reading, cookies and cocoa at the Christmas tree lighting, serving at the Thanksgiving community dinner, and providing college scholarships to students from Cornelius. Concerts in the park, movies in the park, Take Care of Cornelius Day in May. Everywhere I went, Ralph and Carol were there and happy to be helping the community. During the celebration of life, several community and family members took turns speaking about Ralph. Joel Peterson, chaplain for the Cornelius Fire Department, shared how Ralph showed up and asked questions. Family members, daughter Lori Brown Saunders, who you heard from this morning, her granddaughter Megan Brown Clausen, and grandson Kyle Brown had several stories to share about how Ralph always showed up and asked questions. Reflections by Hillsborough Mayor Steve Coway also included how Ralph always showed up and asked questions. I share these with you to illustrate that 4 different groups of people who wrote independent tributes to Ralph, but you would have sworn they were all sat down and wrote them together because they all had the same theme. Ralph always showed up and he asked questions. I'd be remiss not to thank Carol and his family for sharing Ralph with all of us. He can't be everywhere in the community without the support and understanding of your family. We're all better for the cheerful work Ralph has done in the community. Sincerely, Mayor Jeffrey Delane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, from committee members, any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. We will continue on with the next, the next person provide testimony. Cornelius City Councilor Godinez Valencia.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please, for the record, please state your name and begin your testimony.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to start by thanking you all for allowing me to share and honor the legacy that Ralph Brown left behind. Sorry, my name is Angeles, and I'm a city councilor for the city of Cornelius. And I was very fortunate to grow up with Ralph and his wife, Carol, as my next door neighbor. So I feel very honored to have had the opportunity to have him as a mentor. I'll be honest and say that obviously talking about this is not the easiest for me without getting emotional, because Ralph, as I'm sure many can relate, is such a special person. In case many of you don't know the Brown family, they're all extremely amazing and caring individuals, and Ralph was so proud of all of them. You see it in the way he talked about his wife, his children, and his grandchildren. The Brown family, they have this fence around their house, and I know it sounds weird, but even that says so much about them, because their fence is a little bit above waist height. And anytime he was out in the garden or he saw me or my family through the sliding door, he would always come out with a smile and strike up a genuine conversation. You know, Ralph was always about building meaningful relationships with those around him, always wanting to know how everything was going, what new goals I had, what I'd hoped to do with my future. Ralph, Carol, and my mom, they've always bonded over their love of plants, and Ralph loved to talk to my mom about how much she admired her garden and would often ask for advice on his. And when my parents separated and my mom had to take on the role of a single mother, Ralph noticed that she didn't have time to tend to her garden like she used to. So one day I woke up and I looked outside the window and Ralph was mowing the lawn, and he did that until he physically couldn't anymore. And I'll never forget how much that meant to my mom. And it's actions like that that really make Ralph who he was. He cared so much and would do anything in his power to help others. And when I came to graduating from high school, it was Ralph who encouraged me to apply for the Cornelius Booster Club College Scholarship. And as someone that didn't know a lot about scholarships or had a lot of money for college, he was a great resource. And when I graduated from college and I told him I was interested in running for city council, he was a great supporter and offered so much guidance. You know, it wasn't just me who saw him as a great mentor. As many of you know, Ralph played many essential roles in our community and volunteered a lot of his time. He was an educator, a Cornelius City Councilor, a mayor, a state representative, a veteran, a member of many committees, commissions, boards, and organizations. And I'm so grateful to Ralph and especially his family for allowing and sharing him with all of us. I'll never forget the day I found out Ralph had gone missing. It was completely devastating. But it was also amazing to see the community members from all over Oregon come together to help find him. I know it was a very tragic moment. It just showed how much it affected our entire community. We all felt the loss, and I know so much will not be the same. And while he left us in such a tragic way, I'm grateful for all the work that he has done to put the necessary systems in place and to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. So I truly appreciate your support in honoring Ralph and his legacy, and I thank you all for your time.
Counselor, thank you so much for your testimony. We're going to be calling the next group. It's a panel coming up. We have the City of Hillsborough Mayor Callaway. We have the City Mayor of Forest Grove, former Mayor of Forest Grove, Mr. Truax. and the City of Cornelius City Manager, Mr. Rob Drake. I'm not sure in what order you would like to go in, but I'll leave that up to you if you do it by flip of the coin. But I ask that each, please put your name on the record before you begin your testimony.
I'll bet third if that's okay.
That's fine.
I think the easiest way to go is whoever has the driest eyes should go first. My name is Steve Calloway, Mayor of Hillsborough and friend of Ralph Brown, and thank you, Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, and members of the committee. Shortly after Ralph Brown went missing from his home in Cornelius, there was a search for him at Rogers Landing in Newburgh, because that's where a possible location of some of his last cell phone signals were received. While we were waiting in our groups for the search to begin, I made some small talk with a mom and her teenage daughter that I was standing next to. And I asked them, how did you know Ralph? And they said they had never met him, and they didn't. But after learning about what a decent and wonderful man he was in the news reports, they felt drawn to come and give back to Ralph as he had given to so many others. One of them said he was a good man, and the other said, he sounds like my grandpa. And that's one of the special things about Ralph. He was the most relatable person I have ever met. Even those who just read about him, like those who showed up to search, could relate to his decency and goodness. As legislators, you can relate to Ralph's love of his community and his desire to create and support legislation that makes a positive difference. You can relate to the sacrifice that he made to serve, as do you, and the acceptance of the outcome if the votes didn't go his way. Now, as a school administrator, I could relate to and found inspiration in his commitment and dedication to education and our youth. And that's how I first met Ralph 30 years ago, when he and some other educators from Western Washington County were planning the annual drug-free jamboree. I learned that Ralph always went the extra mile, was a great planner from big concept to small details, and always put students first. And once you were a friend of Ralph's, you were a friend of Ralph's for life. A few years later, I became a principal in the Hillsborough School District, and I called Ralph about a potential hire. This person worked in Ralph's school and had listed him as a reference. So I called Ralph and he asked, do you want a reference or a recommendation? And as a brand new principal, I didn't really understand the difference. He said a reference will tell you what they've done and how they did it. A recommendation will tell you if you should hire them. And my recommendation to you, Steve, is that you don't. I would love to see this person somewhere else other than my building. But as a brand new principal, who you hire will reflect on who you are and what you value. Knowing you, this person will misrepresent both. And that is why Ralph had lifelong friends. He could relate to your situation, and in doing so, he looked out for your interests before he would look out for his own. His integrity, decency, and honesty could not be compromised. These characteristics were best explained by a fellow school administrator who said there was an uncommon depth to his niceness and decency. But while Ralph worked in Hillsborough, let there be no doubt that he loved Cornelius. He spoke of it with fondness for its diverse population, rich culture, and the opportunities to make a difference. He loved serving its people as an Oregon State representative, as mayor, and as a member of the Forest Grove Cornelius School Board. He loved serving as a board member on Community Action Organization, as president of the Chamber and the Boosters, and as a member of his faith community. As I close, I'm reminded of the saying that you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. Ralph showed up. And as he did, it was always side by side with Carol, his wife. He couldn't have done all he did without her support as an equal partner and the love of his life. So I encourage you to support this resolution. And as we go about our work of public service, let's continue to do it with the decency, integrity, and service that were the hallmarks of Ralph's life. And in doing so, we will make sure that Ralph's legacy is everlasting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you and good morning. Am I on?
You are.
Thank you.
Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, committee members. My name is Rob Drake, and until very recently, I served nearly 11 years as city manager for City of Cornelius. But I had met Ralph Brown actually decades ago through his love and devotion to the Oregon Roadrunners Club, and we used to compete against one another, and then over the years we stayed in touch. I would run into him, and when I came to Cornelius, he was probably the first person I called and put up my flag and said, help, and Ralph was there. So this letter is in support of SCR 6, which is recognizing the many contributions of deceased Cornelius resident Ralph Brown. He touched many people in Washington County and Cornelius in his long professional education career and dedicated community volunteer accomplishments. His selfless volunteerism and love for the West County cities and residents is legendary. His life was cut short due to a driving accident that caused his death and year-long disappearance before he was found deceased. The community held a memorial, which Mayor Delane referenced, and in recognition event of his honor, in his honor at Harleman Park in Cornelius in summer of 2022, where well over 500 people attended in his honor and to remember Ralph. His wife, Carol, was always at his side, supporting and helping the many events they both attended. They were the ultimate dynamic duo. His volunteerism touched many in innumerable ways and made Cornelius and Washington County a better place to live, work, and play. He was a veteran, Cornelius mayor and city councilor, state representative, Oregon Roadrunners Club co-founder, Cornelius Booster Club president, and a member of multiple boards and commissions, not only in Cornelius, but surrounding communities. He valued his religious beliefs, dedicated volunteerism, helping others, standing up for what was right, and supporting the community and its members. We owe Ralph Brown many thanks for his warmth, dedication, service, and sharing his life with us in Washington County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, Senators Linthicum, Senator Gorsuch, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning in memory and honor of Ralph Brown. For the record, my name is Pete Truax. I'm the former mayor of the city of Forest Grove. I also want to thank Senator Salmon and Representative McLean for sponsoring Senate Concurrent Resolution 6. Ralph more than earned this distinction. I've had the privilege of working with Ralph in a variety of areas, most of which are mentioned in the resolution. I've helped in the New Year's Day run in Forest Grove with the Oregon Roadrunners Club, which Ralph organized. I want to make it abundantly clear I helped in the organization, but I did not run, nor will I ever run. Let's make that perfectly clear. In fact, the run has been unofficially renamed Ralph's Run in his honor and in his memory. I also serve on the board of directors of the Community Action Organization of Washington County and was one of the unanimous votes to honor Ralph's service in that organization by naming him board member emeritus. I'm also a member of the Forest Grove United Church of Christ with Ralph and Carol, and I've listened to Ralph deliver a heartfelt homily on finally finding his Native American family and heritage. I also taught his son Daryl at Neil Armstrong when I was a junior high school, so Ralph's and my paths crossed a number of times. That Ralph Brown served his fellow travelers on this planet goes without saying. I was proud to support and recommend Ralph in his appointment as representative to serve the people of Oregon in our legislature. I could go on with numerous times our paths have crossed, but I conclude with the effort Ralph put forward in establishing the Forest Grove High School Athletic Hall of Fame in 2010. The bar on entry into that hall was lowered considerably this past year when I was elected to that hall. My wish was to have gone into the hall with my friend, Ralph Brown, but his induction will wait for a year at his family's wishes. That hall will be immeasurably enriched by Ralph's entry next year. I close with one of my favorite people in government is the late senator from Minnesota and our Vice President, Hubert Humphrey. On the floor of the Senate, the happy warrior once said, quote, "The moral test of a government is how it takes care of those in the dawn of life, the very young, how it takes care of those in the sunset of life, the elderly, and how it takes care of those in the shadows of life, the physically and mentally challenged, the poor, those facing discrimination." In his own way, in Hillsborough, in Forest Grove, in the schools thereof, in Cornelia City Hall, in the state legislature, in working with kids, in his church, and everywhere else, Ralph followed that maxim. He worked tirelessly for those in the dawn, in the sunset, in the shadows of life. He aced that moral test. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the committee?
I just have one comment. I love this. This is great. I think this is so warming, and especially in this building. You know, it's like having a warm blanket wrapped around you and hearing about somebody's great life and how we can kind of look toward that ourselves. And I appreciate you coming in and everybody who testified online as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I would add, and this is an ad lib here, that your service, Senator Manning, and Senators Lincecum and Gorsuch, same thing. You serve the people of the state of Oregon. We always like to beat up on our elected officials. Steve and I have the scars on our back to bear proof, as does Rob. But it's good work that you people do. I may not agree with all of you all the time. You may not agree with me, but at least we can meet and reason together, and that's what Ralph was all about too. So thank you again for your service.
I appreciate those comments. It is, doing for others, sacrificing and looking for nothing in return other than to see someone achieve success is a higher calling that we all possess. But it takes an extraordinary person to actually get out and do the work and look for nothing in return. Certainly, Mr. Ralph Davis Brown epitomized that. Thank you for raising. I did not know that he was a veteran. I should have suspected that he was a veteran because of all of the tributes and all of the accolades that I've heard here today. He lived an extraordinary life, and I think that his wife was a high inspiration for everything that he did as well, because we don't accomplish anything alone, but we can do many things together. So thank you so much for bringing this forward. I intend to have a work session on this next Tuesday, so that we can move it to the Senate floor, and then we can arrange if there's family members or others that would like to come forward, that we will be able to accommodate them. Senator Salmon will be the carrier on the Senate side, and Representative McClain on the House side will do it like that. Thank you very much again for your testimony. With that, do we have any further business today?
Mr. Chair, we have completed our business for the day.
I'd like to put on a record that Senator Woods was excused. And with that, again, thank you very much. With that, I am closing the public hearing on SCR 6. And we have concluded our work for the day. What are we looking like on Tuesday?
Mr. Chair, we have one hearing on one bill next Tuesday, and I believe now at least two work sessions for the two SCRs from today.
Okay, so I'm trying